AI is transforming integration faster than ever, but where should you start? In this video, I'll outline my 3-step roadmap every developer needs to follow in order to master AI today. Plus, I'll share with you the single most important video you need to watch right now, one that could change the way you think about AI forever, as it did for me. Let's jump in. In this roadmap, I'm going to focus on 3 core areas. One is building your basic knowledge of AI. 2 is increasing your personal productivity. And 3 is building the right skills to apply them to the enterprise today. So let's look at all of these one at a time. First off, what core knowledge do you need to focus on as a developer? Number 1 is machine learning. Number 2 is deep learning. Number 3 is natural language processing. Number 4, computer vision. 5, reinforcement learning. And the 6th core skill is retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. Now, I would just focus on these 6 skills at a high level, be able to articulate what they are. And the best way to do this is to really go to like ChatGPT and say, explain deep learning like you were for a 5th grader. And that will give you a good high level understanding of really what you should know about these 6 core areas and give you a little bit of an idea of how you could apply this at the end. Next, let's talk about foundational AI skills. Now, these are skills you really need to dive in and master at a much deeper level. Number 1 is going to be model selection, which until you dive in and start looking at these different models, you would never understand how big of a topic this really is. There's so many different models that focus on so many different specialties. You also need to think about how you're going to host that model. Is it going to be a cloud-hosted model, something like going through Microsoft or another third party to host that model? Or are you going to go directly with the vendor, say directly to ChatGPT? Or are you going to run the model locally, which is made very simple through tools like Ollama or LM Studio? The next core skill is really prompt engineering. And this is really how you ask the AI in the correct manner to ensure you get back exactly what you're looking for. And to bring a quote similar to what Mr. Miyagi did in Karate Kid, there is no bad AI, there's only bad prompts. This brings us into context engineering, which is kind of the next evolution of prompt engineering. And this takes a broader look at the overall outcome. So instead of focusing on a specific prompt to get a single result, you're more focusing on the overall environment and the overall expectation of what you want as a whole beyond just a single prompt. And the third skill is agentic skills. You want to look at protocols such as MCP or A to A, and then overall agents. How are agents going to be able to help you solve your problems? Now, how do you go about learning these 4 core foundational skills at the level that you really need to master them? My approach has always been YouTube. And what I would do is I would focus on 2 to 3 people in each of these 4 core areas. So I would focus on general AI and productivity, find some videos and some YouTube channels that really speak to you around this area. I would focus on latest technologies. What's breaking news? There's several daily YouTube videos that post every day with all the latest technology. Definitely the easiest way to get up to speed on what's going on. A lot of these are 10 minutes or less, and you can watch these very quickly to find out what's going on in AI today. The third is Microsoft AI. Definitely focus around Microsoft AI, and I'm going to talk more about that at the end on why this is the most important company to focus on in terms of AI. They have several different areas to look at. Logic App Agent Loop tends to be where I spend most of my time focusing on, especially as an integration developer, but you also want to look at their offerings in AI Foundry, OpenAI, and AI Search. And fourth is really to focus on what is your passion? What are you drawn towards in AI that you like better than anything else you've seen in AI? This might be vibe coding, this might be image generation, whatever it is, make sure you find content that's related to your passion, and that'll help drive your overall interest in AI and learning all that you can. Now, just because YouTube videos works for me, that doesn't mean that's going to work for you. So you really want to find the medium that works best for you. And that might be blogs. And that might be blogs to be able to read up on what's going on. Videos like me, YouTube tends to be a great platform for this. Might be training, either in person or online training, or code examples. There's a lot of great examples on GitHub that you can go through to kind of see what's going on in some of these areas. And I mentioned the one single video that could change the way you think about AI, and that's this video right here, deep dive into LLMs like ChatGPT. and it's by Andrew Karpathy. He was director of AI at Tesla for a while and also co-founded OpenAI. Now, this video is 3.5 hours long, so I would suggest watching it at maybe 1.25, 1.5 speed, but it will go through all the foundational knowledge you need about how LLMs work and why they have challenges they do have when you run into them. I highly recommend this video, and I guarantee you will not look at AI again the same after watching this video. Now let's dive into our second pillar, which is going to be productivity. And really what it comes down to is if you are not using AI on a daily basis, your peers are. So you need to focus on how AI can help you be a better developer on your day-to-day basis. And one of the biggest ways I've found to increase your productivity is simply by using GitHub Copilot. If you're using Visual Studio or VS Code, they have plugins to make this chat window directly available to you inside the editor. You can ask questions right there, and everything can be set up using a completely free GitHub Copilot account. I'd highly recommend looking into the GitHub Copilot. In addition to that, I tend to be drawn towards the Google AI Studio suite of products. They do a lot of great things in terms of research. Their notebook LM is top-notch in terms of pulling in and organizing content. So I would definitely look at the Google AI suite. And what I've mentioned before is you really need to find your passion, which tool set really kind of speaks to you. It might be Claude Code or a different IDE, for example. But for me, the Google suites just seem to make a lot of sense. And one thing you want to think about is what is your personal ROI when it comes to these tools? Now, almost all of these tools have both a free tier and a pro or a premium tier. So you really need to think about what is your ROI if you subscribe to one of these services. Now, you might think, well, I will always use the free tier, but I've done multiple videos and examples of GitHub Copilot, the free tier versus the pro tier, significantly better results, increased productivity across the board using those premium models. So definitely don't just discard them if they do have a $10 or $20 a month subscription fee. Now, whenever I sign up for a subscription, I currently have 3 or 4 on the AI space. I go right in and set up a calendar reminder to review if I should cancel that subscription after the first month. So definitely something you want to do as soon as you sign up, go set that reminder to evaluate if you are getting value from that service after the first month. And I always look for super sales. Like I signed up for Google Gemini Pro through Verizon Wireless and was able to save half off of that subscription. So look for ways to save on that. Now with this, you do want to execute extreme caution. Do not send personal identifying information, especially client information, to any of these large language models, a ChatGPT, anything like that. And also don't ask it to help with any corporate secrets or even anything like my company has rats in the cafeteria. How can I get rid of it? Not things you would want to post to ChatGPT. So I kind of use the same rule of thumb, post to ChatGPT anything that you might want published in the newspaper. So keep that in mind when you're using these models. Now this brings us into our third pillar. Let's take a look at the core skills you need to master to drive value in enterprise today. I broke this down as MMAA, and we're going to dive into each of these in a little more detail, but for now, this is what they stand for. First A stands for APIs, M stands for Microsoft, next M stands for MCP, and the last A is going to stand for agents. Now let's dive into each of these. First off, developer APIs. Every LLM has a developer API. This is going to be how you're going to interact with your large language models directly from your applications. So if you're building a logic app, for example, or some other type of workflow, this is how you would interact with your agent through these APIs. The billing for these is completely separate from any type of subscription you might have. So you have to generally set up a secondary account with a credit card to get this API access. And you can go directly through the vendor, so ChatGPT, for example, or third parties like Microsoft that will allow you to host these models. And they provide you a little bit different bells and whistles on top of the standard API. And by using the APIs, this gives you complete control. You have complete control over the system instructions. You have complete control over the context that you pass in. Gives you total control over how you want this call to execute. So that's going to be a key factor in delivering your solutions. The next core area is Microsoft offerings. This is really where you want to focus on and understand what Microsoft can provide to the enterprise. And I'm going to tell you why that's the most important thing you need to focus on in just a few slides. First off, there's logic apps. This is going to be your core entry point if you're an integration developer. You have agent loops, which allows you to build your agents inside your logic apps. Plus, there's new support for exposing existing logic apps as MCP servers, which is fantastic. So if you have agents that you're building in other tools, you can leverage your logic apps and leverage your workflows. And then there's new support for A2A protocols and a lot more than I could cover in this quick roadmap. And one of the core features of focusing on logic apps is it brings a known process for deployment and monitoring. You don't have to learn a new framework to how am I going to get my agents deployed. Logic apps, very well documented and known process for both deployment and monitoring. So that's a huge plus. And then the next core area Microsoft's offering is AI Foundry. This is what's going to host all your large language models. This is how you can provide safeguards and additional monitoring to those large language model calls, in addition to what you would just get from calling the APIs directly. So focus on what AI Foundry has to offer. Tremendous amount of power here in what you get in AI Foundry. This brings us to our next M, Model Context Protocol, or MCP. This was first released just a few months ago in November of 24, and it's had a massive impact on everything we do on the AI space. First off, MCP allows you to expose existing services to your AI agents. So you can expose your existing logic apps, you can expose your different SQL Server databases, you can expose anything you can think of essentially as an MCP server. And next, allows you to consume value-added services. So if you want to upload documents to SharePoint or archive information to Google Drive, all that can be done through MCP servers built right into your existing processes. And our fourth area is agents. If you've heard much about AI lately, all the buzz is about agents and how they can add value to the enterprise. You use agents along with your MCP servers to really provide those tools for what you want your agent to do. So what are agents? It's really about completing tasks independently. So you would create agents to actually go out and do work on your behalf. As we think about a general AI model, we would think about a chat model, a simple conversation. Agents is about bringing that to the next level. So you're not just having a chat, you're sending it off to complete a task, and to complete that task without involving humans as much as possible so they can get that done independently. And the way I like to think about agents is really think of them as your summer intern. Tasks that you would want somebody to do, you don't necessarily want to do yourself, but you would give supervision and guidance for how that task is completed. And that's really the place for agents as we look at them today. Now, earlier I talked about why we should focus on Microsoft, primarily when we think about what to learn from an AI integration perspective. And that's quite simply because Microsoft is king in the enterprise. They own authentication. They own a lot of corporate data in terms of data that's stored in SharePoint and in SQL Server, and they own most all the communication. They have Office 365 and they have Teams. So most enterprise clients that are going to leverage AI are going to be doing so leveraging Microsoft components. So that's why I would focus on Microsoft's offerings, even though when I think of AI, Microsoft generally isn't the top 5 of AI innovators, but they really are the focus area for AI integration in the enterprise. And something else I want to point out is not to get caught up in all the hype. If you look at blog posts, you look at videos, something is always killing something else. Today is always the best day for AI, which generally is, but it's going to make everything you've done obsolete. But that's a lot of hype. You really need to dive into what they're talking about and how it applies to your scenario. You also want to make sure you go in and don't over-engineer a solution. So there's times where you might be trying to build an AI agent, for example, when really just a workflow, a sequential workflow is going to solve that problem much better than the AI agent would. So don't force yourself into a certain pattern or a certain buzz phrase just to be there. Make sure it's the right way to solve that problem. And as I mentioned, tomorrow will always bring something better. So with that better implementation of a better model, for example, is it going to add value? Is it worthwhile for me to look at upgrading what we're doing to that new better solution? So definitely things to think about and not get caught up in that hype. And here I want to talk about how do you know when you're actually making progress on the AI front? How do you know that you're starting to master this? Well, This is something that I've noticed just sitting here when I'm developing code on a day-to-day basis. I used to think about creating a new XML document. How am I going to go about write that in code? Something like XML document, xdoc equals new XML document is something I do every day. But now I don't think that way anymore. I now think about prompts. I think about creating a comment, whack, whack, create XML document, tab, tab, and that document is going to be created for me. And sometimes it will create a full method knowing exactly what I want to do based on the context of that method. So that's kind of a good way to know that you're really mastering AI when you start thinking in prompts instead of code. So what is your call to action? First off, I'd suggest everybody get hands-on. Dive into labs, dive into GitHub repositories, start building solutions with AI today. And really find your passion. Is it agents? Is it video generation? Is it getting a cat to jump up and down and have a party with a hat? Whatever your passion is, find it, explore it, and build your AI skills. You can download this presentation and see all my links to all my favorite YouTubers right here on my website, stephenwthomas.com/learn-AI. Find the link to this below. And if you're ready to dive in and learn more about building AI agents using Microsoft Logic apps, take a look at this step-by-step video, and it'll get you started building your first agent in Microsoft Logic apps. Thank you, and don't forget to like and subscribe.